Welcome into Roster the People Summertime Edition. 32 teams in 32 days. It is what it sounds like. Coming back. Hang on. Editor's note. There you go. Uh, Coming back today to talk about, as you can see, the Atlanta Falcons. Neil Smith, at that FF Nerd, Jason Draven, at Michael Burland. We hope you enjoyed yesterday's show around the Arizona Cardinals as we continue to work our way through the A's. A couple quick housekeeping notes as we get into it, and then we'll do introductions. The premise of this is it's 12-team PPR. That's what it's all based around. If it's usually a 16-round draft is what this is based on. The rankings that you'll hear come from Fantasy Pros and their ECR. You'll hear our own rankings as well mixed in there. We're a Fantasy Pros affiliate. Thank you, Fantasy Pros. And this is your primer, getting you ready for your 2024 drafts, specifically for redraft. We'll sprinkle in dynasty nuggets and things like that as we go. For the purposes of this recording, it is the 14th of June. So if anything we say sounds a little dated, check out the wrap-up show. We'll go through and update all the takes. We'll do a big live stream at the end of this, right before draft weekend for everybody, just to make sure everybody's takes are updated. Jason, how you doing today, big guy? Excited about it?
Yeah. Breaking news. They got a quarterback. So I'm excited for this.
2 quarterbacks.
One that actually matters.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord. Mike, are you excited to talk about Atlanta?
Yeah. I don't know if it was. I know it was up there. It had to have been top 5 most viewed videos of one of these last year, right?
These always do well. Atlanta loves it when people talk about their team. They love when we talk about their team. They don't like me very much. I will point that out. Now I will do this quickly. Y'all in the comments last year talking about how I'm an idiot. Where are you at now? Yeah, I was right about everything. All of it. I was right about every single thing I said. I was right about Desmond Ridder not being NFL ready. I was right about Arthur Smith being a bad coach who ended up getting fired. I was right about him not being able to get Kyle Pitts involved consistently. I was right about them not being able to get Drake London involved consistently. I was right that they would miss the playoffs, and I was right that Arthur Smith would get fired. Bring it. I batted 1,000 on my Atlanta takes. So I will say, that being said, before you all throw your sweet tea at me again, I will say, I like this team a lot more. I like the coaching staff a lot more. I like the quarterback a lot more. I like the running back situation a lot more. I like every single thing that they've done in the offseason and through the draft. The Falcons are one of my most improved teams from last year to this year. So before everybody starts throwing their sweet tea at me and calling me a Yankee, guilty as charged, by the way. But before that happens, this will be a much more positive Atlanta show from me today. You have my commitment on that.
We'll see.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. I forgot. They disrespected your mans. In the rankings, and Jason's going to have words about it. I forgot about that. Jason's hetero life mate, Kirk Cousins, has been besmirched in the ADPs this year.
Everybody's just jealous about the blue collar guy putting on his khakis and going to work every day.
That's like
just
a
keep
weird.
on it.
You just butchered 2 analogies and like car crashed them into each other. I don't know what that was. That was 2 different analogies that either one of them was right. Well, Mike, we're 4 minutes in now. We're already completely off the rails. So let's get back on the rails here. We talked about it. What do you think about? We'll start here. What do you think about the coaching change?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, they get the Rams guys, right? And that's one of the offenses. The Rams, 49ers, guys that come from that system. We like it. I know it's a defensive coach in Raheem Morris, but, they brought in Zach Robinson, who's the quarterbacks coach for the Rams last year. And we've just seen success stories. So they're saying the right things. We're going to feed Bijan, and they weren't using the weapons properly and all of this. They got a real quarterback. So I love the coaching changes. And generally coaches, Raheem Morris, funny enough, this is his second stint, right? He was really young when he had his first job, which was like a decade ago or more. And now a lot of times coaches do a lot better in their second stint. And hopefully he's learned a little bit. And, yeah, I think it's just leaps and bounds better than the Arthur Smith regime.
I agree with you on saying the right things, and especially the part about we're going to just give Bijan the football until the wheels fall off. And I'm like, perfect. It tells me you understand what you're doing. Like, you understand the job description. This is what I was brought here to do, and this is what we're going to do. And I also like I cannot be understated how much of an upgrade it is to go from Desmond Ridder to Kirk Cousins. I know you're talking about a 35-year-old guy that's not everybody's cup of tea coming off of an ACL, but I don't care. Compared to Desmond Ridder, I'll take Kirk Cousins on one leg all day. Even at 35, I'm good. I'm good with it. Like, we're happy.
He doesn't really have to run. I mean, he does pretty good in the pocket, but when he does, he can break a couple.
I don't need him to run at all. I need him only to run well enough to get out of the pocket when the play breaks down. I don't need him to do anything that isn't that. That's all he has to do for me. I don't need you to run in any meaningful way. It's an interesting lay of the land with this because we all agree that this is a huge coaching upgrade. And clearly, as you go through the rankings and the ADPs, both in the ECR and in the public, everyone agrees. Everyone seems to be expecting big things, which is a little scary because now it means there's going to be expectations. But that being said, I get some of the hype. So we're going to go through this, but I'll tease it here just so that it comes out front and center. The way this is going is that one of these things is not like the other. And you're gonna see what it is as we start going through the show. So there is an outlier into this, but we already mentioned it. Kirk Cousins is here. Nobody gets paid at the window like Kirk Cousins. Nobody gets paid like that man. We should just start calling him the ATM machine or something because nobody gets the teller. The something like that. Something. There's got is that guy, what is this, like his 5th free agent contract?
He's a really good agent.
His agent is, whatever he's paying his agent, it's not enough. Like, it's that man, his agent must be hanging out. Like, man, they must just be, those guys must be boys. Cause nobody gets paid like these people. And I get it. Kirk Cousins, we've talked about it for years, especially in fantasy circles. What do? You wait in your draft and you get Kirk Cousins. And Jason, what we always talk about, you put your khaki pants on, you hike them up, you get your boomer shirt on like we're wearing today, you get your polo, like you get your khakis and your pocket protector, and you just take Kirk Cousins because it's not sexy and it's not going to win you your league. You're not going to win because you had Kirk Cousins, but you're not going to lose because you had Kirk Cousins. It's the vanilla ice cream of quarterbacks. And see, vanilla ice cream gets a bad rap because people think vanilla is plain because that's how spoiled we are as a society. And vanilla is a flavor unto itself.
It's the perfect base. You can add anything to it. That's the perfect analogy. Kirk Cousins is vanilla ice cream, but it's versatile, right? You need it.
They disrespect vanilla ice cream, but vanilla ice cream is solid. Like as you said, it's the perfect base. And so that's what you talk about in fantasy. Fantasy in a lot of ways is about, like a lot of things in life, is about mitigating risk and maximizing opportunity. That's really what you're doing. And with Kirk Cousins, I don't really have a better analogy for minimizing risk than drafting Kirk Cousins, because you always get a discount because people that you'll play against, they always want the shiny new toy and they want to perpetually be seeking alpha, chasing that upside. They always want that thing. Whereas Jason and I will tell you, sometimes you should just get a nice little scoop of vanilla. Just put it right there on your team. Don't have to think about it. Don't have to worry about it. Kirk Cousins not going to crash his Lambo. You know what I mean? Like that dude's going to be out. More about him going and getting a hunting accident. Like Kirk Cousins, he's boring. He's milquetoast, but it's very reliable and dependable. And there's something to be said that in life about being reliable and dependable and available. It's an underrated skill is being able to do things like that. And it makes me laugh because Kirk Cousins, every year, Jason, we go through this. Every year at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, Kirk Cousins always winds up around like QB 8, 9, 10, 8, 9, 10. Worst case scenario, 12, 8, 9, 10. Every year. It's like clockwork for a decade.
Well, and even last year he got hurt, but if you go by his point, QB 8.
points per game.
Points per game. Yeah. It's this is nuts.
8, 9, 10 every year. This is what we do. It's all we know. And it's like this, when you get to a player like that, it does have a weird attractive quality to it. And the other thing that I bring up about that is he never gets valued in pre-draft scenarios that way. You always get a discount on this because people don't learn. They don't retain this for year on year. So this year, case in point, Kirk Cousins in the ECR, mind you, is quarterback 18. That's wrong. He's going in the ECR. That would be the equivalent of about 106. So that's like 10th round ish neighborhood of that. Maybe a little higher, 9. His ADP is 148. Yes. I'm going to roster all the Kirk Cousins people. Just give it to me for free. Remember yesterday when I was telling you there's guys that are further down the list that I like more and I don't want to pay up for Kyler Murray? This is one of my examples. This is like, I could just have Kirk Cousins because no one cared? Great. Super. That seems great. Because I know I'm going to get what? QB 8, 9, 10. So I'm getting a 10 QB and probably like a 5-round discount on what I think is going to be basically the same production at the end of the day as Kyler Murray. So that's my take on Kirk Cousins for the season, is that this is something that I think will adjust as we get closer to draft day. But if you're drafting now, and as we're sitting here talking about this, and if this holds true till the end of the summer, I will roster so much Kirk Cousins, except in any league that I play in with Jason. Because then Jason will just go 1 round ahead of me and try to snipe me. That's exactly what will happen. Like, it's just, that's the way the world will work. Am I wrong? I see the smirk. Look at him.
No,
like doing a podcast with
so
the
easy.
Cat.
It's just so hard to get away from. I mean, like we keep saying, QB8. Like, even if he's QB12, guess what? 1 less position you have to worry about and got him cheap. I'm perfectly fine with that.
If I got him in
every time,
what was equivalent to QB15 and he was 12, what right do I have to be mad? Why am I mad? Like, I got what I paid for. I still got more than what I paid for. And I think you could do better than that. So it's like, this is where people, I think, don't cognitively rationalize that, because they want to go for the best at every position, and I get that. But sometimes, and this is also why Kirk Cousins gets paid 5 free agent deals, is because in real life he's like the 12th best quarterback. But there's 32 teams. If you're the 12th best quarterback in the NFL, you will consistently get paid. As we've learned, you will consistently get more opportunities and you will consistently get paid. You're probably not going to go to the Hall of Fame, in all honesty. And you're not going to be like, they're not going to build statues to you. Let me use my $100 bills to dry my tears. Oh no, this Lambo that I bought. Oh no, it means nothing because I don't have a statue. Like, nah, man, we're good. We'll get paid. And as I will say, Atlanta, good job. I think you'll be very happy because you haven't had solid, consistent quarterback play in a long time, Atlanta. Enjoy it. This will be great for you. You'll have a lot of fun with this. This will be a good thing. Mike, you've heard our opinions. What are your opinions? You've tolerated our opinions politely.
No, I'm right there with you guys. This is generally the strategy I want to take with quarterback as well, is take the Kirk Cousins of the world and wait as long as I can. So, and you show ADP, but if know your league, and if he's QB 13 going and 12 every other team has their quarterback, and your league's not going to take it, you can wait even longer potentially. So yeah, I'm right there with you guys. There's really nothing else to add. I mean, I guess the only thing to bring up is the Achilles injury and older quarterback.
35.
We've never really had this, and now we have 2 next year with Rodgers and Cousins, but we're not drafting Cousins because he can run the ball. So I'm not worried. I think he's already back throwing at OTA.
He is already throwing. Anyways. I was going to bring that up because he's 35 coming off the ACL. That's why I think people are getting the discount. That's where I think your discount might evaporate as we get through the summer if he's looking good. But at the same time, I don't know that. I'm speculating that. All I can tell you is what I see right now, and what I see right now represents a massive buying opportunity. This is one of those things where if I had I need that suit, Jason, we talked about on Roster the People last year, the question mark suit in my money book. about like getting free money from the government. This is what I'm talking about. Like free money from the government. like apply for these grant programs. Kirk Cousins for free. Like it's borderline free. It's a screen. This is like the best deal walking in my early rankings. This is the best deal walking as far as like investment for projected return at quarterback. This is it, baby. It's weird, and it's not sexy. It's the opposite of sexy. This is what you do when you got your pocket protector and your khaki pants, if we talked about. But hey, man, you get to play with those fun Star Wars toys if you date the nerds. You know what I mean? Like, they all got lightsabers, and it's way better than some of the other toys. They're not all bent up. So we all agree. Kirk Cousins, massive buying opportunity, huge upgrade for the Falcons. I'm going to do this very quickly. His backup is Michael Penix. If you watch the draft, you saw what happened. It's a weird
thing. The world.
So it's wonky. They're drafting. I get it. They think they're taking the long-term replacement now. They really like him. Okay. If that's really what you want to do, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on a fantasy podcast debating this. And that he's not draftable. He has no ADP. He has no ECR rank. He does, but not ADP. He has no ADP, but he has no ECR ranking. There's no reason to roster Michael Penix. If something was to happen to Cousins, you could pick him up. It's fine. And then even if you could, I wouldn't. Because there are other guys that are further down this list of quarterbacks that I would rather have that will be available, like Gardner Minshew, which is the ultimate off the reclamation dumpster. You can't tell me he won't beat out Aiden O'Connell. Come on.
We saw what he did with the Colts last year.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's nothing. It costs nothing. So it's like, why am I even paying anything for quarterback? I could just get it for nothing. Running back, I'm going to do both running backs at the same time. If it's okay with you, gentlemen. Because I think this is at least I'll do this with my opinion. So Bijan Robinson comes into year 2, very nice year 1, despite the weird coaching decisions that I don't want to do the Steelers show already, and it's so far away, and I'm already dreading it. Like, I'm so not happy about having to do that Steelers show at any point. Maybe I'll have Steve do it. That's a good idea. This year, not worried about it. Bijan Robinson. Year 2, ECR, RB3, translates to 8 overall. His ADP is 7. I agree with every part of it. I see no reason to analyze this. Bijan Robinson is good at football. Put it in the simplest, lowest common denominator analysis. Bijan Robinson is good at football. Raheem Morris is saying that they're going to run him until the wheels fall off. And normally I don't believe what coaches say, but in this case, I actually do. I could see them doing that. I really could. And I think this team, from a general thing, I think this is going to look a lot like the early Kirk Cousins Minnesota teams when Dalvin Cook was in his prime. And they were really a running team that threw to advance the ball. And like, they threw because they could get soft boxes. The only way to do that is to establish the run. So I think Bijan will see a lot of stacked fronts, but I just don't think it matters. And I just don't. And I think even with that, the opportunity will be there. So does anybody want to tell me that Bijan Robinson isn't a first round pick in like any fantasy scenario?
No, I mean, last year he saw 214 rushing attempts. I would expect that number to go up. So even with that, and also what else? He had 86 targets. They
were Desmond Ridder targets, so they were all scratched and dented and horrible. But they're 80.
They're able to reduce that, but increase his catch percentage, and
the offense is gonna be better, so more touchdowns probably.
In theory, yeah.
I mean, he had 25% of their touchdowns last year.
I'd say that's a safe bet, Mike. I'd take that bet. If somebody in Vegas was willing to give me a bet on will the Falcons increase their number of touchdowns from last year to this year, yeah, I'll take that bet. I'd take that bet all day.
Yeah, so I raised it from 17 to Kirk Cousins just throwing 25. Nothing crazy, just a little bump, and I brings Bijan up to RB2 for me currently.
Yeah,
nuts.
No one's gonna argue about him being RB2 or 3. That's in a lot of ways that gets into personal preference.
Yeah,
I think no one would argue against CMC being 1. the question would be, you could debate, I guess, some of the top 5 if you really wanted to, but probably not really worth it at this point. The other running back that's still there that people will remember is Tyler Algier, because Tyler Algier's had flashes. Previous coaching regime, obviously, but he's always been punching above his weight class, is the way that I would explain it, based on what the expectations are for him. This year, his early rating is RB47, translates to 151 overall. His ADP is 158. That's like a 12th, 13th round pick. So we're right in handcuff territory. Love it. Absolutely love it. If I can get Bijan in the first round and Tyler Algier at the end to just have my 1-2 punch, that's what I'm doing. There's no reason to debate this, or even, like, we've seen Tyler Algier have success. If Bijan got hurt, would Tyler Algier be like blow all your fab waiver? Like, if Bijan was done for the year, that would be the waiver show you guys would be doing on Monday. He'd be the number 1 pick. Who would be? What else would have to have occurred?
Yeah.
So you get. This is one of the running back rooms that if you're picking early in drafts, or even in the middle part of your draft, if you got like pick 7, 8. Normally, I don't like picking in the middle. This would be a way to go. And it makes sense because you've lost. CMC's gone. A couple of the blue chip wide receivers have gone. This makes a lot of sense, and you can get the built-in handcuff right on its face. And nobody's, unless you're a Falcons fan, or you play with Falcons fans, I don't think anybody is going to be drafting Algier on his own as like a speculative. Maybe.
No,
I doubt it.
No, he's a pure handcuff, but he is a true handcuff because you look at
Yes.
who's behind him. It's a rookie that I'm not even sure where they drafted him, and then
Not enough
another
capital.
guy that I had to look up who he was. So
you'll notice how on the show sheet I only put 2 names. You know what I mean? Because I looked at that and I'm like, I saw that one guy's name and I'm like, who is that? And if that's happening to me, that's scary. Usually where it's like, oh, how far down are we here?
Yeah.
So running back is a very short conversation with this team. Now we get into wide receiver, and I'm going to circle back to the original comment I made about something not being like the other thing. Because where you're getting a discount on Kirk Cousins, the public, as a preface to this, the public has decided that, in fact, the ECR and the public have both decided that we can have discounts on Kirk Cousins. So they're not sold on Kirk Cousins, but what they are sold on, as we will go through, is all of the pass catching weapons for Kirk Cousins. And I'm really trying to wrap my head around this. I get people sleeping on Kirk Cousins because he's 35 and coming off the ACL. But if you don't like Kirk Cousins, why do you want the weapons unilaterally? The running back, that's why I'm not doing this in front of the running back. Running back, separate thing. Why do you want the pass catchers? Are they going to quote Steve at me from years ago where he used to say, well, it's possible for a quarterback to have a bad season and all the weapons to have a good season? I mean, theoretically, I guess that's true.
Teddy Bridgewater 2020, I believe, is a good example of that.
Oh, there are other examples that are older than that, but that's probably the most current example.
Oh,
Joe Flacco last year.
That's such a crazy outlier that I can't go through that.
Oh, Flacco was
Can't
awesome.
get into that.
That was awesome.
It was, no one's debating whether or not it was awesome. It was a victory for all us people over 35. It was great. I loved it. I also loved it. They tried to interview his kids on that one night on I think it was a Sunday night game. They tried to interview his kids, and his kids looked terrified, like just terrified of being on camera. But the wide receiver room is a little bit different, but it's still Drake London. Drake London is back, presumed to be the wide receiver 1, because why wouldn't he be? ECR, wide receiver 14, translates to around 21 overall in the ECR. His actual ADP is 14. Just let's bear that in mind. And there's no one else on this team that comes in even close to that. But I will say, just for my own thing, I think you can tell by my tone, that scares me. Feels like it's a lot. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't get it, to be honest, that big of a increase. Of course he's going to be better. He has to be better, right? But the fact is, like, this guy, he hasn't been top 40 in points per game. I know, terrible quarterback play. I get it. But he hasn't been top 40 in his 2 years in the NFL. And I look at two other kind of scenarios and receivers that kind of mirror this in George Pickens and Garrett Wilson. And you look at the numbers, the passing numbers from last year, the Falcons had the best of the three teams. And at least those two players did something. They cracked the top 36 in Garrett Wilson's. Both of them were top 36, Garrett Wilson and George Pickens in points per game. So, like, I'm just worried about – we're drafting there expecting an insane increase. Like, we're not talking about going from 800 yards to 11. We're talking about going from, like, 800 to, like, 1,400 yards. Like, a huge increase and touchdowns.
Or it's 1,200 with a huge uplift in touchdowns.
And he hasn't been a touchdown guy in his career either. Like, I know, again, they threw more touchdowns than the Steelers did or than the Jets did last year. And, you know, we had two from the Drake London last year. And it's just, again, if we were talking about, all right, is he going to go from 800 to 1,200? I'm all in. Is he really going to be that, like, we're talking about a potential, you know, he's your second pick. You're taking him at the turn, right? And I'm just worried about it. I really am. Like, yeah, there's not much target competition besides Kyle Pitts and Bijan, really. But I think we're just drafting him at, like, his absolute peak for a player that we haven't even seen to be close to that level yet. So
I think
that's where I'm at with London.
Mike, I think part of it is what you were talking about yesterday, where the second round is kind of a mess right now, where there's still a lot of question marks. And I think the reason he's got this far up is because he's living in that land of question marks. It's the same thing we talked about yesterday with Marvin Harrison. Like, how does Marvin Harrison get to be 13 overall? I think it's genuinely at this point, I think it's because it's just the thing you haven't seen disappoint you.
Yeah.
And everything else in the second round this year has disappointed someone at least once. And that's kind of the issue, because we'll run through it. So for the current ADP for the second round in PPR, Marvin Harrison, Drake London, Jonathan Taylor, Chris Olave, Devontae Adams, Brandon Ayuk, Nico Collins, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Waddle, Mike Evans, Deebo Samuel, Devonta Smith. Everything on that list has some kind of question mark or has disappointed someone previously, with maybe the exception of Nico Collins because it's so early career.
Yeah.
But maybe I'd be willing to give him a pass. But there's enough, the majority of this we've seen a number of times, and there are reasons why some of that doesn't work. Now, I will tell you, if I'm looking at that list and you're asking me my personal opinion and the way I have it ranked, Saquon Barkley goes up. Jonathan Taylor also goes up. And I would rather bank on that than some of these wide receivers that I'm seeing. And I get it. Wide receivers is an important position. I understand why people, especially if you play in a league that forces you to start three wide receivers and a flex, I understand why wide receivers are getting pushed up. It's just the scarcity ratio becomes different than back when we used to play two wide receivers and a flex, or two wide receivers and two flexes.
Yeah.
The positional output.
Big part of London also being up there is just the fact that he is the wide receiver one of all of that list. It's him and Marvin Harrison that look to be the number one pass catcher on their team,
and Chris Olave as well, and Devontae Adams. But those are, I get why people would feel less good.
Yeah.
about some of those things.
So that's why they're all bunched right up there at the top, and then you have all the wide receiver twos that are underneath, found lower.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're granted those are better offenses, but you're still looking at somebody who, if they throw, I mean, what last year they threw 530 times. So assume that number goes up. It's better passes. People are catching more. Can kind of see it. Drake London last year was wide receiver 42 in fantasy football, and that was with Desmond Ridder. So you had to flex somewhat.
The thing is, though, like, where would he be going if Kirk Cousins wasn't on this team? He would be 5th, 6th round pick. So we're literally talking about, it's not because of what London has done. It's because of Kirk Cousins that he's
and Kirk Cousins
moving
has
up.
propped up some like Adam Thielen in the past, Justin Jefferson.
I get that. I get that. But
you get it. I'm doing that for the audience.
Yeah. It reminds me of Garrett Wilson last year. This is exactly where Garrett Wilson was going.
Yep.
And how much of that was because of Rodgers and what happened?
A lot of it. And then Rodgers got hurt 3 plays into the season.
So it's not because of what, like, we've seen Davante Adams be a monster with any quarterback he's ever played with. Like,
yeah, that's true.
And so that's what worries me when I see like a 3-4 round boost in ADP, strictly not because of the player himself, but because of another player in Kirk Cousins. And again, he could finish there for sure. Like,
if you're following that line of logic, then Mike Evans is too low.
Yeah.
If that's going to be your analytical process, I'm not even saying you're wrong. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're doing that, then the other name on that list that jumps off to me is Mike Evans. Because we've seen Mike Evans. I don't care who the quarterback is. We've stopped talking about that. And he's actually going to have Baker Mayfield again. So if we're going to play that game, then yes, I agree. Davante Adams should be higher up. And so would Mike Evans, both those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you this. I would feel better about either of those two guys, I think, just because I've seen it. I've seen them do it a lot. But I get it. There is a certain risk to the idea that Mike Evans is another year older. It's not going to be that way forever. And it's the same thing with Davante Adams. There's a lot of wear and tear on Davante Adams. That man's been in a lot of car crashes. You know what I mean? Like, one day he's not just going to pop back up. Like, and with the way Davante Adams plays football, that's probably going to be how the movie ends. I think we would agree. Like, the way the Davante Adams career kind of ends is probably not. It's probably violently. Is my guess. Sort of how, like, I was talking about the guy who used to play running back for the Patriots, who retired.
Garrett Blunt?
No. More recently.
Damien
Harris. Damien Harris. Where when Damien Harris came into the league, my analysis was that guy's going to be awesome at football briefly, because of just the way he plays football. That was my exact analysis. Was he is going to be amazing at football briefly, and that's what it was. Because it's like, you just can't take. No human being can be in that many car accidents and not get hurt. Like,
Except
eventually
Derrick Henry.
Even that. We'll see.
Yeah,
not sold on that yet. Like, you rarely meet a bigger Derrick Henry apologist than me. But anyway,
one last thing on that. I guess something that could be in the favor of taking him here is what we talked about, the coaching staff.
Yes,
they come from that Rams background and they know how to get their players open, and they center their offense around their studs. So there is a case to be made for, well, they're going to do, what they did with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua and all these guys, and, get the ball in their hands in favorable spots.
That's actually a good segue into the next name on the list, which is Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney comes over from the Bears. We've seen flashes from Darnell Mooney in the past before the Bears kind of ruined his career, theoretically, a little bit. Like, then that's kind of what the Bears do. I say that as a lifelong Bears fan. So they asked Darnell Mooney to do a job he was not going to be capable of doing, which was to be an alpha wide receiver in the NFL and to carry their entire wide receiver core on his back. And he tried his best, but it didn't work. And then he got hurt and wasn't really given an opportunity to heal before he got shoved back out on the field. And he just hasn't looked right since then. He's theoretically healthy now. He's had another year to kind of get right. And we'll see now if a different offensive scheme can benefit him. My theory is that it will, but there is a thing with that. So he's being rated in the ECR as wide receiver 71, should translate to 178 overall, which is right near the end of the draft, which is where I would be okay with it if you wanted him as a very late round flyer just to see for a few weeks what I get, but I don't know. I don't want to invest a lot. The problem is he's being drafted at 147, and that's just too much for me. We've seen Kirk Cousins be able to hold up multiple profitable receivers and a tight end, which we'll get into here momentarily. I know everybody wants to hear about Kyle Pitts, or they want to hear about Jason talk about Kyle Pitts. But But I'm just not sold on Mooney not being done. Does that make sense? I'm a little concerned. I'll put it to you another way. I'm a little concerned Darnell Mooney is done and the Bears have ruined his career. It's kind of where I'm at with it. A little afraid of that. He's scared. That scares me. That's not science, by the way. I'd like to point out that is not a scientific evaluation of anything. That is largely my gut and an opinion. I have no statistics that would allow me to go to you and say Darnell Mooney's career is over. Like I can't say that, but I am thinking it loudly.
Yeah. I mean, I think he maybe fills a role on the offense, but I don't think he's going to be. We're not going to be talking about him this year. I don't think so.
Not unless there's an injury. I mean,
and even then,
even then. Sure.
Well, Kirk Cousins can pop up anybody. All right, as long as if he stays healthy, there's going to be a pass catcher that is worth something.
I know, and then it's a while ago. Like they had Russell Gage on the Falcons, so I want to. If you squint hard enough, it's kind of similar, and it's like that's not the same regime, and it's not the same QB, and it's not. There's too many differences to really make that comparison. Russell Gage plays more in the slot, and it's like.
So Rondale Moore?
No, I didn't like Rondale Moore when he was on the Cardinals. I don't think he's physical enough. I think he's too brittle. I think Rondale Moore is going to try to play the slot, but I think he's just going to get killed. And I don't like Rondale Moore very much. I've never been a Rondale Moore guy, and I'm sorry because I know that sounds bad because I don't know the man, obviously, and it's not personal, Rondale, I assure you. But you're just not my cup of tea when it comes to fantasy. You're just not. Like I'm not interested.
I like him for Cousins. I think that it's I'm talking about Mooney and Moore, like they're okay receivers to add something to the offense, a different layer than what London and Pitts are going to bring. But that's about it, really.
Yeah, the things on this team that I'm interested in actually rostering, Bijan and Algier, we already covered that. The 1-2 punch. If by some miracle Drake London's ADP goes down, we'll have a separate conversation. But no, not right now. Too many things I like more. And then Kirk Cousins is like the value discount of the year at the moment. Like there might be some better ones that we'll uncover, but right now he's the leader in the clubhouse for value discount of the year. So give me all the Cousins and I'll take the running backs, but I don't want any of the wide receivers at their current ADPs. I just don't want any of it. I'm just willing to leave that to be somebody else's problem. That's how I'm evaluating this team. And then we get to the elephant in the room, which is Kyle Pitts. And this is where I think we will spend the remainder of the conversation as we discuss the Falcons, because this is the one that I had figured would be the most polarizing topic. Jason, go ahead.
Well, it's just, again, because we've seen it with Cousins, a lot of people were applying that to Kyle Pitts from pretty much every tight end that he seems to have had. He's somehow been able to pull them up. It's just the second person he really looks at, in my opinion. If you're going through your list, you have your wide receiver 1, then you look at your tight end, and that's usually where it goes next. So if the actual targets move to him like Cousins normally does, will be the second target getter, will usually be the tight end. Kyle Pitts theoretically should be the one to do that, right? Well, it's just that everybody else thought that for a long time. Oh, he's his breakout tight end. He has flashes. You continue to see it every now and then. But man, even last year, it was Jonnu Smith who was outperforming him. Like it hurts when that kind of stuff is stuck in fantasy players' minds. So at this price, I'm going to take a Shark Tank approach here and go, I'm out.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting though, and I mentioned this before the show, that I don't think he's really got the boost that Drake London got. Maybe the boost is he's not ranked further down.
Well,
maybe that's the boost.
We'll do it because we didn't do it here. So Kyle Pitts is currently in the ECR, tight end 8, which would translate to roughly 87 overall. By ADP, he's going at 62. So you're right. He's not a second round pick like Drake London is. You know what I mean? Like top of the second round, but he's getting a boost in the public. He's going 20 spots ahead of ADP when you factor the public in. So he is getting a boost. It's not nothing.
Couple things I'll say is, one, I hope they use him more like a tight end, the position he plays, and not a stretch the field, leading the NFL in air yards at the tight end position and ADOT. Hopefully they do that. I do think he was hurt more than we were let to know last year.
That's probably fair. That's probably
you go back and watch and you can kind of see that a little bit. Now, am I going to be taking him in, what is that, the 5th round, 6th round? Probably not, but
5th round.
If I had to choose between Drake London at his ADP or Kyle Pitts, if I wanted a piece of the offense, I would definitely choose Kyle Pitts. And there's almost no question for me there. So, like, he could be – there's no – we talked about with Mooney and Rondale Moore. He's the clear-cut number 2 guy, and I think he's going to get the biggest boost. And he's still so damn young. A fun fact is Kyle Pitts' career catches before the age of 24, 150.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce, 0. And It just shows you how young he is. And, like, he's young. I think he's younger than Kincaid. And the prime years for tight ends are like ages 24 to 28. Like, those are the prime years. And we've seen it from Pitts rookie year, age 20, put up 1,000 yards. But I am probably out at that price. But the reason why I would take him over London, I think he could be tight end. I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be slightly surprised, but I think he could be tight end 1 overall.
I think he could easily get in the top
8.
3.
Yeah.
If we just go by what you guys have been saying, which is correct, that Kirk Cousins, similar to what we talked about with Kyler Murray yesterday, Kirk Cousins likes to have his safety blanket, short yardage, middle of the field guy, and that's usually a tight end. And we've seen Kirk Cousins prop up tight ends over the years with various teams. Jordan Reed, if you want to go all the way back in time. And then with the Vikings, obviously, we've seen what he's been able to accomplish. Yeah. So there's always Kirk Cousins usually finds a tight end target, and that guy has fantasy value. So I do see the appeal of Kyle Pitts here. And you are getting a little bit of a discount, because I can tell you right now, if you didn't have all the baggage with Kyle Pitts, way higher. He'd be way up. Like, but the baggage and the disappointment is what's keeping it here. That's the only reason that it's even somewhat attainable. I agree with you, by the way. If this was one of the if I was interested in getting a piece of the offense, this is what I would want. Because you're talking about a 5th, 6th round pick. Maybe if it fades a little in your league and you get a little lucky, because it depends on who you're playing with. But that would be more worth it to me. I just know that I won't roster him more than likely in just about any league, because I won't be taking a tight end at that point. But I want to just point out, this is what we were talking about, where all of the pass catchers, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts, if you factor in their ADPs and ask the public, they're all getting drafted ahead of their actual ECR ranking. So the public is much more bullish on this than the expert community is. So, but what's interesting is they're bullish on everything except Kirk Cousins. They're bullish on all the toys, but not Kirk Cousins. And that always sticks out to me. I get how you can arrive there, but it is just weird to me to see those plots on the graph where it's like, okay, a little strange that you don't like this thing, but you love the thing that's dependent on this thing. But okay, like, whatever you want to do. The one thing I will say is coaching staff is saying all the right things about Kyle Pitts as well. Raheem Morris has publicly stated on numerous occasions he doesn't feel like they were using Kyle Pitts correctly and maximizing his skill set or giving him enough opportunities. We'll see if that's actually real. See, I believe him a little more on the Bijan thing.
Yeah,
a little more on the Bijan thing. But
yeah,
so a lot of stars on the team, that's for sure.
Oh, for sure. I mean, what was it? Three top 10 picks at the skill position players. So in 3 straight years. The one thing I will say, because we do have people that play fantasy and they want to take a tight end early, this is the guy that I'm going to be looking at over, reaching for Laporta or McBride. Andrews is another one if you do want to go tight end early, but we'll get to that. Kincaid, even, Kyle Pitts is the guy, because you're getting him as tight end 6, 7, 8, and he could be tight end 1 in my opinion. So
the risk is baked in a little bit better with Kyle Pitts. It's baked into his ADP and ranking a little bit better. The other ones, there's risk, but people I don't think are acknowledging that all the way. They're coming at it with their rose-colored spectacles. Whereas Kyle Pitts, I think people are being a little more critical because they've seen the struggle bus. And what do we know about people? They really only remember, by and large, this is a real thing. And it's called recency bias. People generally only really remember the last thing they saw. This has been objectively proven psychologically in people. They really remember best the thing that they just saw. And people in general struggle. I'm not saying, and that impacts me, everybody. We're all peoples, except for Jason. But that's a whole other podcast. But that's the thing. And so with what we saw recently is that we saw Kyle Pitts struggle, and so it's baked in a little bit more. And so I agree with him. Like, I don't know how I feel about him being the one, but I do genuinely believe if there was a guy outside the top 3 that I was looking at, that I was like, oh no, this is the guy that I would circle to be like in the upper echelon, like, and matter. Yeah, it'd be him. Just based on what I've seen Kirk Cousins do with tight ends in the past, and the fact that he's going to be looking for red zone targets, and I have a feeling he's going to be looking for Kyle Pitts in the red zone early and often.
Yeah, I kind of laugh at that because last year Kyle Pitts was ADP 64.
Yeah.
So baking it in, like, you moved him up 2 spots. Great.
Well, the problem is, is that's not apples to apples
higher
because of all the quarterback stuff. And we saw another year of him. So he would be, if they didn't have Kirk Cousins, I firmly believe that he'd be at like 95, 100.
Yeah.
ECR would have him at like
the
80.
value,
Yeah, because ECR would have him in the 80s still, more than likely. Or maybe a little lower, like 90. But if they didn't have Kirk Cousins and the public was just looking at it like that, and it's Ritter again, he'd be at like 110. You know what I mean? He'd be like way down the page. Because people would be like, nope, seen that before. Nope, not doing that. And it's like, I get it. But this is where those 2 ideas, recency bias, but and then shiny pass catcher, rising tide lifts all boats. That's where those 2 ideas collide. And that's where I'm like, it's fun to watch how this works. And I think that's how some of you, we can arrive at. I don't really want to roster Kirk Cousins, and I'll put him Drow Gray here, but I do want to roster the Kirk Cousins weapons. And I'm like, what a weird world. Yeah. So the way I'm dealing with it is I'm just going to avoid all of it, try to get as many Bijan and Algier shares as I can, with as many Kirk Cousins shares as I can, and that's how I'm going to evaluate this team. That's my critical analysis going into this for this year. That's what I'm doing.
Fair enough. I'm right there with you, I think.
Yeah. I just, like I said, I wanted him to be cheaper, and it's just not happening, and I'm really upset about it.
You can blame your boyfriend Kirk Cousins.
I know.
I just thought it was funny. Cheaper?
I wanted him to be cheaper. I wanted that. He wanted 100 sounds like that sounds like a money spot for me.
But he could definitely fall. Like, if he falls around, like, I'll reach up and maybe grab him, but I don't know. Maybe he pulls a groin in training camp and he falls a couple of spots, So
this is different than Jason's normal value tight end roundup corner, where normally Jason likes to go dumpster diving and find the diamonds in the rough. Well, that's what I've been telling people to do for years: is go dumpster diving in the tight end market, and you'll find something eventually. But that's why I don't like paying for things like this, because it's like, this is an extravagance that I don't feel like I can afford. What I should really do is take another wide receiver or another running back, and that's what I should do, because I know that I need at least 3 quality running backs, really 4. I know that I need at least 4 quality wide receivers, really 5 if I could afford it. And when you do that, it just gives you options later, and that's where I get afraid with this tight end thing, because the person, if this doesn't pan out and he struggles, as new teams, new coaching staff sometimes do, you could probably get Kyle Pitts for a pretty solid discount off his ADP halfway through the season if he's struggling. And then you hope it turns around and you'll have the option of doing it. It's why I don't like. Whereas if that does happen, you can't trade Kyle Pitts. That's the problem that I have with this, is that I get stuck into a non-fungible asset. I can't move it. It's either it pans out and I'm a genius and then I might not even want to trade it, or it fails and I'm stuck with it and I have no recourse. Yeah. It's like buying a used Lamborghini. The person that had it rode it hard. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't drive it like a normal car. It loses such a huge amount of value every time that it changes owners.
Yeah,
I can't do it.
if London doesn't work out, he's still probably going to be a top 24 receiver.
That's what I mean.
So
if London struggles but isn't a total disaster, I could trade London and recoup something.
Yeah.
Staple that contract to something else, and I can get out of it. The Kyle Pitts thing, with all the baggage around Kyle Pitts, you are making that decision on draft day.
Yeah.
If it works, you're a genius. If it fails,
I think there's a perfectly good show to help you out with that.
there are a couple. There's two actually that we do on this network. There's two perfectly good shows that I would say check out. One of them's on Mondays. One of them's going to be on Wednesdays this year. Check those out. What are they called? What are they called, Jason?
No idea. But you can come back here and find out.
Of course.
Good place to start, as always.
All right. Well, we're gonna get out of here. I hope everybody has been enjoying these as much as we enjoy making them, because they are fun. We will be back tomorrow in your world to talk about the Baltimore Ravens. But before we go, does anybody have any parting thoughts on the Atlanta Falcons?
No, just I hope they all chime in and tell us how wrong we are about everything again.
I'll take any engagement. All engagement is welcome. You can call me a clown again. I don't care. I just wanted to point that out. Normally, I don't even do that type of thing and take victory laps on people like that. But last year kind of irked me because people were trying to tell me that Desmond Ridder was good at football, and I'm like, there's no amount of like sweet tea that you're gonna offer me that's gonna convince me that Desmond Ridder suddenly is gonna learn how to play football. I'm sorry, like that's not a thing. Like, this is much better. I appreciate this. And unfortunately, sometimes in life, as we know, you gotta fire everybody and then rehire new people because maybe the new people will have better ideas. And in this case, I think they do. I think they have much better ideas, and I think we all agree on that. That I would much rather be a fan of this version of the Atlanta Falcons than last year's version of Atlanta Falcons. And I'm already starting to try and figure out how to make excuses to not have to do the Steelers show because of it. I'm not feeling well. But with that, Neil Smith, at that FF Nerd, Jason Draven, at Michael Burland. Hit us up on Discord. We're out of here. We'll see you tomorrow to talk about the Ravens, and try not to sweat to death out there.
I'm Tim Kitzrow from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, and you can find all the guys at ImportantNonsense.com. Kaboom!